Hunter Biden. Now, we remember a couple months ago, I did a whole emergency show on it. Donald Trump got convicted on 33 felony counts, and Joe Biden and the rest of the Democrats came out swinging, saying no. Well, better yet, I won't tell you what they said. We'll let this little video clip tell you what the Democrats said.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
That's enough. So as it turns out, that was a fucking lie. Joe Biden has pardoned Hunter Biden after saying over and over again that he would not do it, right? He wouldn't do it. He's pardoned Hunter Biden on the gun and tax evasion charges, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. He didn't just pardon Hunter Biden on, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let's just play this video of Karine Jean-Pierre talking about the potential Hunter Biden pardon. If you don't believe me that he said he wouldn't do it, go ahead, check this out.
Second one, would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
Okay. Let me go back to the first question of the briefing. I know you said not a lot's changed since yesterday and that it's a personal matter, but from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
You've also said several times that the president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
There you have it. You'd think he wasn't going to pardon his son after hearing that. So Hunter Biden was convicted or pled guilty to tax evasion and gun charges. Now, the gun charge he pled guilty on is one I don't even think it should be a law. A drug addict in possession of or drug user in possession of a firearm because he was smoking crack at the time and he had purchased a gun, lied on the background check form, right? So that's one that is very, very rare that they come after you for because it's hard to prove one way or the other unless they catch you with drugs and a gun at the same time. It's hard to prove you lied on the background check with that specific question. Now, Hunter Biden, unfortunately, just decided to document with timestamps every time he used crack, and we saw that he lied when he filled that questionnaire out and signed an affidavit saying he was telling the truth. So that's how they got him on that. Very, very rare anybody gets hooked on it. But again, had Joe not had this unquenchable thirst for power, none of this would have gotten dug up. So he pled guilty to that and tax evasion charges under the condition that they would not try him for corruption and money laundering through Ukraine when his father was vice president, and he got a job making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, he being Hunter, for a Ukrainian energy company called Burisma, which he was not qualified for and had no background with. So obviously there's something going on there. You also had text messages and emails coming out where Hunter Biden was saying 10% for the big guy. I take one guess who the quote-unquote big guy was. They'll probably try to convince you it was Trump. There were instances where he had Chinese businessmen on the phone, and he said, look, recorded phone calls, said, look, here's my dad. Had his dad come in and say hi just to close the deal out back when his father was either a senator back when his father was vice president. So well-documented history, probably corruption. Biden's probably involved. So he got pardoned on that, right? Now, here's where the pardon gets interesting. He didn't just get pardoned for the gun and tax crimes. This was a sweeping pardon between the years of 2014 and 2024 that said any crimes he has been accused of or not accused of, he is pardoned of. So Hunter Biden, for all we know, could have murdered 15 children and buried them in the woods. But if he did it between the years 2014 and 2024, he cannot be tried for it, even though he has never been accused of it. There's no evidence he did it. and never arrested for it. If they all of a sudden found evidence that he did it and arrested him, there's nothing they could do. He would just be off because it happened between those years. He's absolved of everything. Now, it just so happens that 2014 was the year he started with this company in Ukraine called Burisma. Do we think that's a coincidence? Here's what I think happened. Biden knows that there's something incriminating of him and God knows who else in the paperwork for this Burisma deal. He knows that if Kash Patel and the rebel rousers that Trump's put into different positions of power start really digging into Hunter, they're going to find something that'll bring the whole Biden crime family to the ground, and he can't take that. So what he's doing is he's going to make it so that it would be a total waste of time to look into Hunter Biden. Now, this isn't the only pardon. There's a lot more people there. They said they want to pardon Donald Trump's quote-unquote enemy list. That list includes Liz Cheney. It includes Dr. Fauci, people like that. So they're going to pardon, just blanket pardon everybody and exonerate them of everything so they can't be looked into, because this is what the regime does. They're like the mob. They take care of their own. Here's my thing. For as much as they've tried to paint Trump as this horrible criminal, right? He sure has a lot of quote-unquote enemies who need presidential pardons for crimes they may or may not have committed. So maybe Trump's not the criminal? Have we considered that maybe he's not the criminal? You want to know the funny thing about the crack thing? Here's Biden in the 90s when he added on to the 94 crime bill, mandatory minimum sentencing for crack. Go ahead and check out what he had to say. And there's a little compilation next to Biden while he's speaking.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $0.25 of $1, we passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice. Under our forfeiture statutes, the government can take everything you own. Everything from your car to your house, your bank account, not merely what they confiscate in terms of the dollars from the transaction that you've just got caught engaging in. They can take everything. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society. They are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street.
There's an asterisk next to that, unless it's his son. Then it's totally absolved and nothing happens at all. I actually disagree with mandatory minimum for crack sentencing. I don't agree with that. I think it's one of the laws that clearly was meant to target minorities, because black people smoked cocaine and white people snorted it, and crack and cocaine, whether it's powder or rock, are virtually the same thing. But it was Biden put that in there clearly to target black people back in the 90s. That's absolutely what that bill was, and there's no way around it. But when it's his son, I mean, listen, I don't believe in white privilege, but my God, is that a screaming example of it? It's not white privilege, it's power privilege. But it's pretty hard to, I mean, when you've built your entire party over the last 10 to 15 years screaming white privilege, male privilege, straight privilege, blah, 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 it's pretty hard to dispute that and then turn around and do that. I mean, could you imagine if it were Trump Jr. that got caught smoking crack and Trump pardoned him, the outrage that would cause? But the Democrats are cheering him on. And at first, when it happened, I was like, I kind of get it, father protecting his son. But this isn't a father protecting his son, folks. This is a father protecting himself. And if his son happens to be protected in the process, then so be it. But they don't want them looking into Hunter because they know when they look into Hunter, they're going to find some not so flattering things out about Joe. And who knows how deep that'll go? Who knows if that'll stop at Ukraine? Who knows? Maybe there's some Ashley Biden diary entries that tell a little bit more than just the shower story that haven't come out to the public yet. And they start digging into that as well. Who the hell knows? Now, we've got a picture of the pardon here. You want to pull it up there and show people what it says? I'll read it real quick. Let me get it pulled up on my phone. It'll be a lot easier to read. So, this is the official language of the pardon. We're going to break it down and read it off to you and see what they say here. That way you can kind of compare to things they've said in the past. Statement from President Joe Biden, WhiteHouse.gov. Today, I signed a pardon for my son, Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word. Well, no. The first sentence is a lie. I would not interfere with the investigation, and I kept my word. Clearly, you did it. Even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Hold on. The irony of him saying that. The irony of the man who spent the last 4 years telling us that the DOJ was not political and that the investigations into Donald Trump were simply because nobody was above the law and it had nothing to do with politics is now claiming that the investigation into his son was a political hit job. Are you fucking kidding me? So how many lies have the Democrats been caught in the last 6 months? That Biden was mentally sound, there's number one. That Kamala was this great candidate and it was full of joy and they were just going to cruise their way to the finish line. There was lie number 2. That they weren't going to pardon Hunter. There was lie number 3. And now that the Justice Department was not politicized. There's 4 lies in 6 months that they have told. Lies. It was good. It was good timing there. That's 4 lies in 6 months that they have been caught red-handed. I don't know how anyone could stomach voting for these people at this point. I truly don't. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Yes, that's because people almost never record themselves smoking crack over and over and over and over again with timestamps on the videos. I mean, what all Hunter Biden was missing was a film crew with lights and today's newspaper. Look, 4K HD right here, just so you know, I'm smoking crack today. That's the big difference there, Joe. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. Hunter pled guilty so they would not look into you. Do you guys understand how sick this is? Do you guys understand how sick this is? They used Hunter's addiction as a way to deflect any investigation into the shit they were doing. This fucking sick son of a bitch used his son's drug addiction so that he could have plausible deniability when the feds inevitably looked into them for money laundering and embezzlement through Ukraine. So they could say, I don't know, it was my drug addict son. They were fully prepared to throw him under the bus and blame his drug addiction if they ever got caught. These are sick, nasty, soulless people. Says it is clear Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. No. What happened was you had a bank that had submitted hundreds of suspicious activity reports regarding Hunter Biden's activity in potential money laundering and tax evasion. And finally, somebody caught wind of it because they were looking into you, which you've done nothing but look into your political opponent. On the flip side, then a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Department of Justice unraveled in the courtroom. Yet another lie. The reason that that plea deal unraveled, quote unquote, unraveled in the courtroom was because the judge took one look at it and said, this is a sweetheart deal. He's only getting this because he's the president's son. Nobody else would get a deal like this. Absolutely not. Go back and rework it, make it more realistic. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. So sorry, your sweetheart deal fell apart, Joe. With a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases, and you still would have pardoned him because the same logic still applies. It still would have meant that nobody would have dug into you and your activities over the last 10 years that you were more than happy to throw your drug addict son under the bus for. Just by doing this, make no mistake, Joe would have been happy with Hunter being the fall guy because he was happy for the last 6 months with Hunter being the fall guy. I actually feel bad for Hunter that his family used and abused him like this. I mean, it is his fault, but it's not his fault to the same extent that it's Joe's. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than that Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober. Does anyone believe that? Does anyone believe that? Even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break him, they've tried to break me. And there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. Okay, if he's sober, why won't he talk to his kid? Why is he still avoiding his kid? Why does he want nothing to do with his kid? Whose mom has gone public begging him just to come. I don't want you back. Just be involved in your kid's life. She's asking me, where's daddy every time? And then she sees you on TV with your other family, with your kids from another marriage, and wonders what the hell's wrong with her. And, you know, when her grandfather goes on TV and says, I have 6 grandkids when he's actually got 7 because they won't even acknowledge she exists because they're trailer park trash in suits. For my entire career, I've followed a simple principle. Be racist. No, he didn't say that. Just tell the American people the truth. Are you fucking kidding me? That's been Joe's principle. So were you telling the truth when you said you were not going to pardon Hunter 3 months ago and then did it anyway? Was that telling the truth? I guess I missed that part. I believe here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. Oh, yeah, you can close it now. Yeah, we understand, Joe. We understand you came to this decision because your ass was going to spend the rest of your fucking worthless, miserable life sitting in a prison cell if they actually looked into your fall guy son that you've just hung out to dry and used and abused, manipulated the fact he had a drug addiction. That's why you did it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, Joe. 10% for the big guy. Who the fuck else would the big guy be? Who the fuck else would it be? And this is the worst part, man. We all know that the Ukrainian government has got serious dirt on the Bidens. So when you look at them, this adds another layer of evil to what they're doing over there, trying to egg on World War III. You know they've got dirt on the Bidens, and that's why we keep sending all these weapons and money and supplies, and why we keep escalating the war over there. So this adds another layer of evil to that. Because this isn't just your normal Iraq war where you got a bunch of, pig-faced businessmen in suits sitting there making billions of dollars in their stock options off of it. This is more evil than just, the military-industrial complex wants to get richer. This is, I'm willing to send your kids to die while, manipulating my own son for his drug addiction. But I'm willing to send your kids to die. I'm willing to risk World War III, nuclear war, whatever the case may be, if it means this country with dirt on me won't go public with it. If it means I can save my own ass, I will happily start World War III. That makes it even worse what they're doing over there. Even worse. Now, we read that press release from the White House. Very coherent. Obviously, Biden didn't say that. Let's see what Biden actually had to say this week. Go ahead, pull this up.
Mr. President, I'm coming back to ride on the train. all the way from end to end. As I say, when we on the Senate floor of the United States Senate, excuse a point of personal privilege. I've ridden an awful lot on trains. I commute every day 212 miles a day on Amtrak from Washington to my hometown in Wilmington, Delaware as a senator. And so I like trains a lot. So I'm coming back. You're stuck with me.
He's like a fifth grade. I like trains a lot. That's the president. That's the president. His brain is fried. Kamala just spent 2 weeks in Hawaii, toasted drunk. Who the fuck is running the country right now? Because it's not those two yahoos. Who in the hell is running this country right now? That's all I want to know. That's the million. That's the how much money did we just send to Ukraine yesterday? That's the $750 million question. Is who the hell is running this country right now? That's why I don't understand all these people freaking out about Trump getting reelected. Obviously, who the president is doesn't matter all that much because, yeah, things have been rough over the last 4 years, but the country has basically functioned without a real president and evidently without a real vice president for the last 4 years. It hasn't been that big of a deal. Obviously, there's enough safeguards in place that who the president is really doesn't affect all that much in the grand scheme of things. But what he's done is Donald Trump was going to pardon some of the January 6th protesters one way or the other. That was going to happen. Now, naturally, that was going to be a politically unpopular thing. Whoever the Republican nominee is in 4 years, probably J.D. Vance or whether it's DeSantis or whoever, was going to be attacked on that, and they were going to have to answer for it. Now, you just gave them an easy cop-out. Well, Joe Biden pardoned his son. Why can't we do it? You know, we pardoned 86-year-old grandmothers that were just at the Capitol. They never went inside the building. Joe Biden pardoned his crackhead son, who he had on video committing multiple felonies to cover his own ass. You just gave them ammunition. Easy counterpunch. You just walked your way into a first-round knockout blow with that one. Congratulations. And again, he doesn't care. He don't give a fuck. I mean, that guy's not going to... Joe Biden in 2028 is going to be sipping oatmeal through a straw in the old folks' home. I don't think he gives a rat's ass about what happens in 4 years. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.